For much of history, rape in conflict was understood as unfortunate but inevitable byproduct of war. Over the past few decades, however, the world has come to recognize that sexual violence can and is used as a weapon of war. The use of sexual violence as a weapon of war is meant to signify a situation in which women of a certain group are targeted for sexual violence so as to achieve military or political objectives, as in, for example, the Rwandan genocide. In the Rwandan genocide, the Interahamwe would subject massive number of Tutsi women to sexual violence. This was done with the intention of terrorizing and eradicating the Tutsi community. Another example is the Darfur genocide, where rape was used as a method of cleansing black Africans from the region. Mabrahatom Fitoui, a legal expert, says that rapes committed in public places and having similar patterns and gang rape could be indicators of the systematic use of rape as a weapon of war.
If the rape is committed, for example, publicly, then it can be said that the one who is committing that rape has a confidence on certain system, on a certain organization. So if it is public, for example, we can say that it is systematic. If it has similar pattern, then it might indicate that there is certain systemic way of doing it for certain purpose. If it is also, if you take for example gang rape, usually when a rape is made by more than one, there is high probability of it is possible that it can be established in the court of law or in any way. So unless they have a confidence on a certain system, on a certain organization, it's less probable that gang rape will not be committed. So gang rape can also be one indicator of systematic kind of rape.
The 16 months long communications blackout in Tigray, as well as the systematic destruction of health facilities across the state, has meant that neither government nor aid agency are able to grasp the magnitude of the violence on women in Tigray. But former Ethiopian Minister for Women and Children's Affairs, Filsen Abdi, says she resigned from her position after an investigation by the ministry on widespread allegations of sexual violence had revealed the gruesome nature of the violence on women in Tigray by Ethiopian and Eritrean forces.
Beyond the horrific and brutal acts of sexual violence, the women and girls of Tigray suffered. There was something systematic about the rapes. It felt premeditated. And the complicit silence that followed and the attempt to thwart investigations and block the resulting report was dummy. I quickly became at odds with the Prime Minister's office and the Prosperity Party leadership after the reports. Of course, I tried to work with the system to help Tigray women and girls. But any request for assistance and funds on our emergency action plan to gender-based violence and child protection for Tigray was ignored by the Ministry of Finance and all other relevant stakeholders, agencies.
Mabrahatom says that rape has not only been used as a weapon of war, but says there is sufficient reason to believe that sexual violence was being used as a tool to commit genocide against the people of Tigray.
It seems that rape has been used as, well, I can say, weapon of genocide. Not weapon of war, but weapon of genocide. If we consider certain indicators, like for example, in certain instances when they rape, they have said that they are raping to purify their blood. If they are raping to purify their blood, this cannot be a weapon of war. It's not to win the war. It is to purify their blood, and that's genocide. You can, for example, see from certain sources that after raping certain women, if they insert, for example, foreign things into their vagina, that also indicates that they are trying to prevent birth. At least they are incapacitating her. So in such circumstance also, it can indicate genocide, because in the genocide definition, preventing birth among the group is considered as an act of genocide.
In a report on August 2021, Amnesty International would illustrate in detail why it believed sexual violence was being used as a weapon of war in the conflict in Tigray. saying that it was clear that rape and sexual violence have been used as a weapon of war to inflict lasting physical and psychological damage on women and girls in Tigray. Hundreds have been subjected to brutal treatment aimed at degrading and dehumanizing them. The report from Amnesty also indicated that there was widespread use of sexual violence to terrorize and humiliate the victims and their ethnic group, and those women were held captives for several days while the soldiers took turns raping them. The attack on women in Tigray was exacerbated further by Ethiopian authorities attempting to belittle and justify the violence on women in Tigray in an attempt to evade responsibility.
ትግራይ ስላለው ችግር የሚሰቃዩ ሰዎች የሰሜን ዕዝ ጥቃት በሚመለከት ምንም አያነሱ። ሰሜን ዕዝ እኮ አልተጠቃም፣ ተዋረደ። ሴቶች እኮ አሁን በወንድ የተደፈሩት የኛ ወታደሮች ግን በሳንጃ ተደፍረዋል።
Another gruesome violation on women has been the deliberate destruction of health facilities in Tigray that has significantly reduced women's access to healthcare. This, in addition to an 8-month-long siege on Tigray that has blocked off essential medical supplies, has meant that survivors are unable to receive much-needed care. In a statement in November of 2020, Human Rights Watch had said that the torment of survivors of gender-based violence was further exacerbated due to lack of access to medical assistance, saying that survivors require access to essential healthcare needs, including termination of pregnancy, treatment for HIV and hepatitis B, and care for broken bones, stab wounds, and traumatic fistula, and support for depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress. But the destruction of health facilities across the region and the presence of soldiers in checkpoints near health facilities during the 8-month-long occupation of the region had made it impossible for survivors to receive care. Mulu Mesfin, a nurse at Tigray's only one-stop center, says that even if survivors were to somehow make it to health center, lack of essential medical supplies meant that women would receive limited care.
800 clinics are done still now, from the war till now. 300 of them are late pregnancy, are coming for termination or abortion. There is no any medication. There are different types of diseases that are acquired. Chronic disease like HIV. There is no any medication and medical supplies. There is no any nutritious. Like plumpnet. They are very in starvation.
The use of rape as a weapon of war, coupled with the systematic attack of public infrastructures and the discontinuation of basic services, has had a devastating impact on the most vulnerable members of the community, especially women and children. International media outlets and human rights groups have been at the center of documenting these atrocities and their grave human impact, but the world has continued to fail to take decisive action to ensure these atrocities come to an end.